Okay, today is Lesson 6, Chapter 1. We're going to go ahead and do some last-minute commands here. I'm going to go ahead, and sometimes it's nice to draw myself a frame to draw inside. If I'm not sure, maybe I've zoomed way in, zoomed way out. So let's go ahead and start the drawing by drawing a rectangle here. And we want it to be a 10 by 8 rectangle. Remember, we have to do the relative sign, which is at 10, 8. And there's my rectangle right there. Now we are going to draw this line. The line, if you check your drawing, is 7 long. So let's just put that here. And then I'm going to divide it, 7, and enter again to get out. And now we're going to draw these individual pieces in here. And we do that by doing points. Well, let me go ahead and get started by drawing some points. So I'm going to draw some points. And you can see drawing them, I don't know how good your screen is, but those are very hard to see. So before we even do any more with our points, let's go ahead and make them larger. That's one little pixel right here. It may be impossible to see on this drawing that I'm doing. And to fix those, that's under here on the Utilities panel. Go ahead and drop that down and see where it says Point Style. Go ahead and click on that and see, that's it right there. Now, that's bad enough. I don't know why anyone would want to make invisible points, but that's it. You can do that if you want to. But let's make our points like this. I like the X right there because so many of our lines are up and down. These crosshairs might not work, but let's go ahead and choose that one. And let's make it a point size of 0.5 of the screen, relative to the screen. And when I hit enter, you can see there's the points. And there's the points I just drew right there. So I'm not sure why they have those teeny points as the default, but we want to draw these points. So now that we do that, we don't want to draw the individual points. Let's see, which one do I want? I want to do this divide. If you count on your drawing, I think I've divided it into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 different things. So that's what I want to do. I'm going to come back up here to draw. I'm going to do divide that. It asks me, what do I want to divide? This, enter. How many segments do I want? I want 7 segments, and enter. And you can see what it did. Just for looks, that would be just fine. This will snap to an end, but I don't want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points. I want a point at each end as well. So now I will go choose point this time, and remember how it made pixels for it the last time? Nope, it's because we put in this clear thing about what our points are. Now remember, that really is a point. It only snaps, and it snaps to something called node. You can see it's not snapping there just for this once. We're going to turn on another set of O-snaps. And I don't know why that's called point. I don't know why it's called node, but it is a point and a node all in one. So we're going to turn that on so we can draw this funny wiggly line called a spline. So once you get that, we are going to go up here to draw, drop down the draw panel, and we're going to do this spline. Spline to fit. Draws a file, it says draws a spline with fit points. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to snap, I'll zoom in, I'm going to snap to these nodes, and a rubber band, a really wiggly line is going to form. This is a spline, and I can establish it in these places. Now let's just do one click there, and now let me do a bunch of clicks. I'm clicking each of these spots. I'm going to do that, come down here, do a couple of interesting things. Just have fun. You don't have to follow what I'm doing. Just make enough things so we can manipulate this in just a second. And a couple more, and finally end here. I'm going to hit space bar to get out, and I'm out of that command. That's one single line there, and you can see I can trace back. Here I clicked twice, there I clicked once. Here's all the grips to make that one. I can do all sorts of fun things with a spline. We'll use that a lot when we get into architecture. So once I've done that, I'm done with my spline, but you can go ahead and you can work with those. So I could grab that grip right there, do this. If I decide, you know, that is too wiggly, I want to make this a little bit smoother here. I can go in, you see, I can make it all tangled if I want to. So I'm going to just play with my spline right there. And I want you to do that too. Play with your spline until you're satisfied you've got some fun shapes right there, and then we're ready to go. Okay, so that is it for spline. Now we're going to go on to the hatch command, hatching and gradient. And to do that, I want you to draw a bunch of boxes. And I don't even care if they're in that rectangle anymore. That was just a quick lesson on how to establish a drawing frame. But remember, here's a rectangle, and I want to do at 1, 1. Let's do a bunch of these. 1, 1, and enter. And now let's make a bunch of copies. CO for copy. And click. Base point and copy, 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 copy. I can make copies out here too, just in case I want to do a lot of practice here. So now we're going to fill each of these islands. It's now cut off from the rest of the world, this island right here. We're going to fill each one of those with hatches and gradients. We don't use gradients so much. They're a lot of fun, but we use hatches a lot. So in order to hatch, here it is under the draw thing. I'm going to do hatch right there. And when I do that, a new ribbon comes up. And for this first one, I'd like you to draw, let's see, which one is this that I have you drawing? One way we can look at it is to drop down this thing right here. And I want you to do that checkerboard. That is ANSI, American National Standards Institute, ANSI 37. So go ahead and click that. And then when you hover inside, but I've just made that one right there. Now just for fun, go on over to this one, and I'm going to click there, and we're going to manipulate some of these. Now you notice that if I clicked on one of these and deleted, both of these would delete. So if you think you're going to want to do something here and something here, you might want to get out of the command, and I drop up here, and I drop down the options, and I separated my hatches right there. So now I'm going to manipulate this one just a little bit. I can do several things with it. I double click on it, and here pops that back up, and I can scale that up or down. Right now it has a scale of 1. If I scaled that up to 2, look at that. It's now twice as far apart as it was the last time. Let's go ahead. Actually, I think I'm enjoying that hatch so much, I'm going to do it over here as well. I'm going to click on that, click on that. Let's say I want to scale that down. So I highlight this one, and I come up here, and I make that 0.5. I'm going to make it half as big. So you can do all sorts of things with that too. And I can do not only have it like that, but if I come back up here, let me double click on it, and that ribbon pops back up, I can change the angle. Now I'm going to adjust the thing. Watch when I do this. I'm going to take this slider and move it around. Watch what happens. I can slide it through 30 degrees, 40, 50 degrees right there. Let's say I want to switch that to 45 degrees. Rather than try to do that with a slider, I double click on that number and type in 45. Whoops, I did that wrong. 45. And enter, and there we are. So that's the same hatch. These two are the same. It's just this is scaled smaller, and then I've done I've changed the angle right here. We can change hatch transparencies if you're going to be putting this over another hatch. It's a little bit hard to see while you're actually working on it. That comes up. I don't usually work inside that little thing right there. But you can change the transparency. I don't want it to be transparent, so I'm going to take it all the way back down to 0 transparency. But we can do several things with that. And then go ahead and in these remaining ones, put in some other hatches. So I'm going to go back to hatch. And I think in the lesson that I handed out, I want you to do a whole bunch of ones that we're going to do in architectural drawings, like this one right here. I'm going to click on that one, and I might click on that as well. Look at that. Anything that's an island, I can go ahead and drop the hatch in there. Sometimes when I hover over this, it creates its own hatch in here, but not in this case. And then I can play with this one as well. Get back into it, checking my ribbon, and I can change the angle of this. Let's just slide it back and forth, and you can see I can change the angle. Now again, those are all associated with each other. One changes, they all change. If I don't want that, I come here to options and I tell it to separate those things. So now I'm back in this hatch. Every time I unhighlight it, I go back to my regular ribbon. So I can do all sorts of ones like that. Let me show you a couple of kind of cool ones as we go down here. And you can play with all of these. As I go down here, these are the standard symbols for brick. There's that one right there. Let me keep going on some of these. There's gravel. I've always liked that one. Here is, where's gravel? Maybe it's under stone. There it is, gravel right here. I can change that to stone. And I could also put it over here, and then you can see what happens when I change the style on that. I think those are still separate hatches right here. Nope, those are singular. And now I'm going to go in here and change this scale to 0.1. And I think that's way too small. Now there's the same hatch. That's way too small for that hatch. But go ahead and go to hatch and draw yourself some fun ones. Honeycomb I really like. So there's honeycomb right there, and practice spinning things around. Okay, so let me delete a couple of these hatches. So I'm going to show you some gradients. So now, right under hatch, I drop that down and I get gradient. And gradient starts with these things right here. Let me make sure I separate these. And so this is what we get. Well, let me just show you what that looks like. If I come here with that gradient and drop it right there, I get that. I think that's pretty cool. Now, if I don't like that color, I can change the color. I can make that, let me make it kind of peach right there, a little bit lighter. And I can change that to a bullseye. I can change that to dark at the top and light at the bottom. I can change that so it's curved. I can do it like a cylinder. I can do the other kind of bullseye, the other color for a bullseye. I can do all those different things with that. And again, I can come inside here and do those fun things there. I'm going to create that one. Now, why did that do it like that? You can see that bullseye is going to be in the middle. I think it's because I needed to make those separate. I probably have to do that for everything right there. Let me go backwards and do that. Let me go to hatch again. And well, let me just use these colors right here. I don't think those are very pretty, but let's do that. I'm going to do this one right here. What happens if I do that one right there? Yes, that bullseye's in the middle, so I'm going to separate those. And let's see what happens then. Oh, look at that. I just got a bullseye right in the middle. You can see hatches are a little bit sensitive. You're going to need to play with those things. But you can do all sorts of things with that hatching. You can go in here. Maybe we want to do a gradient again. You can do a gradient inside of there. And then just play with it by dropping that down. And we're going to play with that. So we can do all sorts of things. Gradients I don't use very often, but they're just cool to work with. So play with some gradients, but the hatches are what we're going to use a lot when we get into doing our blueprints. The last thing we're going to learn today is how to scale. So we're going to scale this weird. Next project is to do scale. So to start scale, I'm just going to go ahead and draw myself a little rectangle. So rectangle, I'm going to make that 1.5 by 1.5, 1.5, comma 1.5. I did my relative coordinate there. Now I'm going to draw C for circle, click here, and now I'm going to make copies of those. 2 extra copies. So, whoops, I'm still there. Copy, and I'm going to copy one here, and I'm going to copy one here. And now I'm going to leave this regular, and I'm going to scale this down, and I'm going to scale this one up. And here is our scale command. You can type up there. The shortcut for scale is SC. I use that a lot. Select the objects. I want to scale this one down. So I click on that. And people always forget to do this. You always have to select a base point. So I like going up is positive and right is positive. So I usually like to start there. And everybody's tempted to do this by hand. I highly recommend you don't do that. Don't even get in the habit of doing that, because sooner or later you'll need to know exactly how big you scaled it. Did you go up 50%, 200%? And if you've done it by hand, that was just a guess. So let's not do it by hand. Let's come down here to the command line, and we want it to be 50%, so 0.5. And there's a 50% scale of this original. Now let's do scale again. Hit the space bar. I'm going to select these, and then base point. And this one I want to scale up by 2, so I type that in here, 2, and enter. And now I've scaled that up twice. So I'd like you to go through it and play with some hatching on this particular drawing and the gradients. And then when you're done, I'd like you to draw this again. Now remember, this is different from the last time we did it. We drew this earlier, and I think everybody was drawing in individual lines and trimming up every single one of them. But look what you really only have to draw these lines. Don't forget your mirror command. You could do that. You could do a array. This is an array. 1, 2, 3, 4 points of that array. And this is an array too. And see if you can find some shortcuts to do that. So once you do that, go ahead and play with it. Fill it in. Look at all the crazy things. I have my honeycomb there that I twisted. I did all sorts of things. This is the hatch that I exploded. You get done with that. These next few drawings right here, this is taking into account all the lessons we've learned before. There's no particular thing about scale or hatching here. I just want you to practice these and get your hand at doing more complicated drawings. And on into these. Yes, these are very big. And the dimensions will show up a little better. I had to adjust those down when I did this drawing. But you'll draw this piece and see how few times you have to draw something. In other words, don't draw 3 circles, dink, dink, dink. Don't draw another 3 circles, dink, dink, dink. See if you can just draw one set of circles. Copy, mirror. That is an array right there. Have some fun with this one. And then this one's fairly straightforward on how to do it. Have some fun with that. And that's the end of lesson 6. Thanks.